People I meet who deal with Enbridge say more than anything else, you can't believe anything that they say.
Here at our main Comstock brewing facility for Bell's, we are real close to the Kalamazoo River.
A year after the spill in Kalamazoo, a land agent came knocking on our front door and said, "Hey, great news. That pipeline that's in the back of your yard, we're going to replace it with a brand new one."
I noticed next door one day they were doing construction. I'm always interested who would be coming into the park and who our new neighbor is. And I stopped and inquired, said hello, and what are you building? "Oh, we're building a bank."
Back in the back, there was a green wall of 105 mature trees, 40, 50-foot tall trees.
And then we noticed that they were hooking up to the fire hydrants and just taking water, which is stealing.
And then they said, and by the way, all of those trees, we're going to need to cut those trees down.
And we found out that it was Enbridge building a remediation pad. So they actually lied to us from the get-go. They tried to hide what they were doing.
All of the difficulties we had in that negotiation process and the behavior of Enbridge throughout the whole thing, they just ran roughshod over everybody up and down this pipeline without any regard for people's property, for the importance of vegetation and trees to people. And that's the reason I wound up starting the blog. So I started the Line 6B Citizens blog simply to provide a place where landowners along the pipeline could go for reliable information. What I never expected to happen was for the blog to grow and become a kind of running document of Enbridge's bad behavior, their PR spin, their attempts to circumvent local ordinances, to bully and steamroll over local municipalities. And so I spent countless hours simply documenting Enbridge's behavior.
When I called the township supervisor to let her know about this, she said, "Well, this can't be happening. Nobody ever got site plan approval."
The other thing that people say about Enbridge is, aren't they the ones who are responsible for the spill in Kalamazoo? And I think it's astonishing how much people have learned about the responsibility that Enbridge bears for what happened. It wasn't just an accident, it was the failures of a whole set of processes and procedures at that company that ran very deep. Almost immediately, Enbridge wanted to replace that section of pipe and to get the pipeline running again. The feds made them wait. And then once they let them restart that pipeline, Enbridge made all kinds of claims about how it was okay, even though the PHMSA had placed limits on the operating pressure. And so after a while, I think Enbridge realized that they couldn't pump as much oil through the line as they wanted to, and so they suddenly decided that it would be a safety issue to replace the pipeline, when in fact I think it was a matter of operating pressure and the volume of oil they could pump through it, especially because the new pipeline could pump more oil than the old one, even at higher operating pressures.
This is where Enbridge was putting in their remediation pad, which was going to be this huge facility to process hundreds of thousands of cubic yards of contaminated soil and contaminated river water.
So they were very shrewd in replacing Line 6B piecemeal in sections. And by doing it in those sections, they were able to get around the environmental impact assessments they would have had to do, the presidential permitting processes that they would have had to go through, all because they called it an integrity management process rather than new infrastructure, when in fact, by almost any definition, it's new infrastructure. It's a brand new pipeline that is a larger diameter than the old pipeline and just next to it.
My office window's right here. I was looking right out at this. On a day like this, common day, the wind is out of the west, so whatever they pulverized, any benzene, hydrocarbons, all the other heinous materials in that diluted bitumen would have blown right into the brewery.
And they've been very clever. While everyone was paying attention to Keystone XL, Enbridge was quietly putting together this strategy to send more and more of that tar sands oil from Alberta across the Great Lakes region and ultimately probably to export.
The neighborhood over here that they set up next to is people don't have a lot of resources there. Certainly not the kind of resources to fight a huge company like Enbridge. And I went over there and talked to some of them and said, I'm going to be your champion because we're going to get these guys out of here. And I wound up having to sue them. And in the end, we were able to stop them from building this remediation pad there.
Even though it was a hundreds of millions of dollars capital investment on their part, in the long run, it's a financial windfall for Enbridge. In that regard, the Kalamazoo spill is the best thing that could have happened to them in Michigan, because now they're making more money by sending oil to that pipeline than they would have, than they ever have before. They still say they can shut down a pipeline in 2 or 3 minutes, which is only true in the most abstract, theoretical way. Under absolutely ideal conditions, when someone notices a leak, the instant that the leak happens.
You take a look at these spills, and then there was an actual business consequence for us as a company. We spent a lot of money on lawyers fighting Enbridge to basically save our brewery here.
Especially given Enbridge's track record here in Michigan, the idea that we wouldn't all be deeply concerned about Line 5 is stunning to me. And a pipeline that is older than Line 6B was when it ruptured, that is running through the world's largest source of fresh water is crazy.
For them, they did not care about us at all. They just wanted to do their own thing. Didn't matter that it would impact a neighborhood or other businesses. It was all about them.
In the 1940s and 50s, we did all kinds of crazy things that we would never do today. We smoked on airplanes, and we built homes with asbestos, and we didn't wear seatbelts when we drove, and now we know better. And it seems to me that maybe there was a time when it made some sort of sense, or we didn't think much about the idea of twin pipelines transporting fossil fuels underneath the world's largest source of fresh water, but those days are long past.